her usual sloppy self. Bum bum ba-dum 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 bum bum bum.
Don't you know you never call a bottom sloppy?
Oh.
It's triggering. Trigger warning to all of you bottoms out there.
Trigger warning, don't sit on the furniture, you might suck it up.
Oh my God.
Anyway, well, cheers for this drink. Do you want to describe to our audience what you make? I feel like I work for NPR and I'm talking to the blind. Can you describe to our audience?
Can I describe what I'm looking at as a co-host in front of me?
My name is Kamala Harris. I'm wearing a blue pantsuit and I use she, they pronouns. I use she, it pronouns.
That was my alter ego.
But describe to the audience what this lovely concoction that you just made is.
It's a ripoff of the Pump and Glory that you would buy
don't
at...
use the word rip off. You say it's a tribute to rip off.
It's an homage to...
No, let's not be that. Okay,
the Pump and Glory of Lisa Vanderpump's world-famous Pump.
Yes. Which may be closing.
Maybe. We haven't heard any news about that.
Your friends, the Toms. But, so what's in a Pump and Glory?
Well, in theirs, it's muddled cucumber and
I
vodka.
almost got some cucumbers at Costco today. I should have.
But in ours, I just used the cucumber mint vodka because it's already infused in there. Some elderflower liqueur and limes. Lime juice. Fresh lime juice.
Black pepper on top.
And then you sprinkle some black pepper on top.
That sounded like an Ina recipe. Like, if you don't have fresh cucumbers at home, the lazy cucumber mint vodka from the store, you piece of shit.
It's actually really good vodka.
It actually is really good. I do like this. What brand is this? Wheatley?
No, Greenhouse.
Greenhouse. Available at your local Total Wine, who does not sponsor us. And speaking of people who have no sponsors anymore, Tucker, I hardly knew her. Our dear Tucker Carlson was abruptly dragged off the air on Fox News.
So, well, okay, keep going. So you apparently read or heard some extra news about that, about why that might have happened?
No one knows.
I had my
why.
suspicion.
Well, here's what happened. On his Friday sign-off...
No. You have to say it like a girl from the South would, and I won't say what color. See, what happened was...
What has happened is... on Tucker's Friday sign-off, he said something to the effect of it was a very jaunty, see you next week. He didn't say see you next Tuesday. Right. He said, see you next week, basically alluding to that they were going to continue normal scheduling. There have been a couple instances in the past where he said that, and it's been like he's been out for an illness or they've had other programming or something. But first thing this morning, there was a press release put out by Fox saying that they have a very curt press release saying that it was like 3 sentences like, we have parted ways with Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson was an employee for this number of years. Something to the effect of, we appreciate the viewers from this show. That was it. Like, it was just like a very like no reason given. It didn't say he was fired, but it sounded like it was very unexpected. And that's kind of all she wrote. In fact, let me see if I can read the press because it was written so
right. Well, yeah, I was looking up to do research on something else really quickly, but to make sure that there wasn't anything.
Tucker press release. Let me see.
I wanted to make sure there wasn't anything against what I was about to contribute.
Fox News Media and Tucker Carlson have agreed to part ways. We thank him for his service to the network as a host and prior to that as a contributor. Mr. Carlson's last program was Friday, April 21st. Fox News Tonight will air live at 8 p.m. ET starting this evening as an interim show helmed by rotating Fox News personalities until a new host is named. So, unlike when people retire, there was no warning given. There was no, at the end of a broadcast, I'm done now. There was no network style, him, grabbing the camera and saying, you've got to get mad.
I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Exactly.
So I theorize, and as far as I can tell, there's nothing to disprove my theory. Because from what I understand, the actual deal that Dominion and Fox made, which we talked about in the last episode, I believe.
I think we briefly mentioned
Right.
it. So Dominion Voting Systems
Right.
reached a $700 and something million settlement.
787.
With
I think last episode we said 785. But
Isn't
it's
that a plane?
787. Yeah.
reached a settlement. And that's it. That's how much money that Fox has to pay them because I don't exactly know why. Because someone said that their voting systems aren't reliable.
So this is the thing. Tucker was one of those voices that was the most boisterous about, talking about that kind of voter irregularities and the Dominion issues.
But didn't he also say it was nonsense?
He gave credence to some of that. And so I'm thinking that it was part of their deal that Tucker had to go. And as far as I can find, the actual deal is not made public.
That's part of the
They
deal.
made public that they had to pay, the money, but that was all that was made public. This could be an extra stipulation to the deal of the lawsuit going away. That's my theory, because you don't just get rid of the most popular television show on cable networks.
Lightly.
Right. Well, no, you just don't do it. Like,
Right.
that's suicide.
Well, and the part that now I believe Dominion put out a statement today denying that they had any involvement with this, that the deal itself had nothing to do with this.
Okay, I did not see that.
The LA Times reported that it was a corollary situation where apparently there's some person suing Fox who was like a former producer who was upset about the workplace environment. Not like sexual harassment or anything, I think, but it was just like, oh, you made some crude jokes, and they're getting set to do a deposition. So it sounded like after the Dominion deal was done, in order to avoid having him talk about it, they had to yank him off the air as quickly as possible before he would go on and mention it in a broadcast tonight and potentially incur more liability. Which, again, also sounds insane. Because if you have a host that's might say something you don't want, can't you just say, hey, so there's this really expensive thing, and if they end up trying to sue us, you're going to have to pay. Like, I don't understand why there would be an issue with something like that, but apparently there is.
Right. And which is why, I don't know, which is why I still stand by my theory that it was actually part of the deal.
Oh.
My mother, because I spoke to my mother a few minutes ago,
Right.
and I mentioned this.
Who is of the Fox News viewing demographic?
Yes. And I told her that I believe, and you and I think both independently believe, that this is one of the nails this is really the final nail in Fox News' coffin. Because there are so many people who only watch that station and only subscribe to their stuff for him. And so getting rid of him means getting rid of a lot of your fan base and a lot of your viewership. So my mother asked me, why do you think that? I mean, the same thing kind of happened to Bill O'Reilly, where he was, abruptly kind of yanked off air,
Right.
and Fox News didn't crumble.
Right.
And so my response is, well, people of your generation, mother, boomers, you can sort of get behind firing someone for legitimate reasons, which, quote, legitimate.
Right.
There were allegations that O'Reilly did inappropriate behavior.
The falafel thing.
Yes.
I've never been able to look at a falafel or a loofah the same way since. And by the way, I do want to acknowledge, after all of that and after all the stuff that became public out of that, Bill O'Reilly had a consensual relationship with someone who was on the staff. It was only afterwards that then she sued and said, I'm upset that this happened and everything. But it was like they were involved for a significant period of time.
But
he
the
didn't go
point-
up and like shadow box someone's
The
tits.
point is, for a conservative audience of that age and of that generation, that can be seen as, okay, that's inappropriate, that's a fireable offense.
Because if he was a bank vice president, the same thing would have happened. They'd be like, okay, you can't work here anymore.
So we won't like necessarily boycott or stop watching your show, or your station, because you got rid of one of our favorite people who happened to have done something maybe we didn't agree with.
Right.
But in this case, Tucker's sitting there like, Vicky, I'm being crucified like Jesus was, and I did nothing wrong.
He did nothing wrong.
And that's going to piss off a lot of people. That's going to actually say to people, okay, he actually didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything of a fireable offense, but you still kind of let him go. I know they use the words parted ways, like
Right.
kind of to sound amicable. But to your point, he never saw it coming. Like, it's not like last Friday he was like, by the way, guys, I'm leaving.
Right. There wasn't even an opportunity to say goodbye or to plug, I'm
Right,
going
which
to
means he
somewhere
was
else.
fired. So the
Right.
point is, he did nothing wrong. He got fired for it, for nothing. And I don't think the generation of the boomers is going to be as forgiving of Fox News this time.
Well, I talked to one of my close friends whose parents they're avid Fox watchers. Tucker's always on in their home. I mean, Bill O'Reilly was always on in their home. They're subscribers to Fox Nation, which is their streaming service. And then you can also get access to Tucker Carlson. Do you know Tucker Carlson has a
Today Show?
daytime
No, no,
show?
no.
No one talks about that. But he has like a daytime show where he has more fun and relaxed interviews.
I've watched it many times.
Yeah, and I've heard it's a lot more fun because it's it's a little bit lighter subject material. I don't know if there's a cooking segment or whatever.
Well, no,
But-
it's a lot more directed. So,
so it's
it's
one-on-one?
one person. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So whereas his nightly show, there's like segments of like
Right.
very short things. This is more like this entire episode's dedicated to one person talking about their passion or their
Right.
what they're known for. So it's very much more kind of in depth.
Okay, so it's like a deep dive into one person's story. Okay, so he has Tucker
Which, by
Carlson.
the way, as an aside, I'm sorry, the episode on, which I don't know, did they pull his shit already off of Fox Nation?
I don't think so, but I was
Because
gonna see.
they still technically have the rights to it. They helped him produce it and paid for it. So
they spent a lot of money on it, and your audience this is like their number one content. So you'd be really stupid to pull the content.
anyway,
too.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but my point is, if you
Yeah.
want to watch a really good episode, the one on Simon Ateba, who was who is, excuse me, a White House media correspondent from Africa.
Oh, that guy who got into the fight with Karine Jean-Pierre.
Yes. But he has a very fascinating backstory. Like, he was kidnapped by pirates, like all
What?
kinds of weird shit. Like dropped off in the middle of nowhere, and like kind of woke up in the middle of nowhere and was like, "How did I get here?" Like, he has a lot of really interesting stories. So he's led a great life, and he's becoming quite quickly an American patriot, and a patriot of the United States, even though he's not a citizen.
Well, I'm glad that we have someone more interesting in that press room after, someone to succeed that old Arab Helen Thomas. You remember Helen
Yes.
Thomas, right?
Shut up.
That's going to be you in like 20 years.
But I'm sorry. I interrupted your point. You were trying to make a point, and I'm sorry.
I've been here since JFK.
She was awful. In like
Is
the
she
best,
dead?
I don't think that they could tell. Like in the past 10 years, they just.
Well, you said she was awful, and I'm like, did she actually die, or did she just retire?
I don't know. She fucked James Polk. Like, she's been in the White House press room since before there was a White House. She's been in that seat since the Constitution. What are you going to do? I think they just leave her there. But enough about the California raisin. Back
We're
to...
not talking about Dianne Feinstein again.
leave her alone. I didn't say the California vegetable. But back to...
Oh, I'm
Tucker
sorry. We're not
Carlson
talking
today.
about Maxine Waters again. How many California raisins or vegetables
We've
are
got to
there?
stop his ass.
Anyway, sorry. Go
Anyway.
ahead. Your point
Your point.
that I stomped on twice. I'm sorry.
Colin is having an aneurysm listening to this because we're just going back and forth between references like crazy people. And
Well, you know what? Maybe he has ADHD, and we're just helping that.
our one listener that had ADHD could have been diagnosable is no longer listening. We cannot make this many references per minute anymore.
Okay, sorry.
There's no one whose level we can keep
Go
going.
ahead. Go ahead.
So no.
We have other topics to cover.
But back to so Tucker Carlson today is on this app called Fox Nation.
Mm-hmm.
It's a streaming service just like Hulu or whatever, and you get to see all the Fox News content. Also with some other content that doesn't quite make it on the network. So, for example,
Nancy Grace's
Nancy Grace's "They Will Fry" special, comedy special.
Britney Spears special, which I still want to watch. I've teased the fact that we will watch this and talk about it on the podcast, but we have not watched it yet.
Nancy Grace's special, "Death to All of Them."
Right.
Oh, Jesus.
I love her.
That's the whole title. And Alveda King's cooking show, who is Martin Luther King Jr.'s niece, So now those are going to be the tent poles that Fox is built upon now, because now that Tucker's gone, no one gives a shit. But back to, so anecdotally, my very close friends' parents are canceling their Fox Nation subscription, of course, because Tucker was like the main reason that they watched and tuned in every night. Right. And when they went to go cancel, I didn't even tell you this. So, Dad's a veteran. They found out Fox charged them the full price for the yearly subscription this past month and didn't even give them the veteran discount. So they're like doubly pissed. Mm. If you want to piss off a boomer, don't give them a veteran discount. Like that is like
$2 saved is going to be detrimental to your health.
It is, because these people fought in Vietnam, and you're telling people on a fixed income that they used to get a discount and now they don't. You might as well just burn the local Waffle House at that point. Like, that is an act of war. So, needless to say, they're doubly pissed.
Burning a Waffle House is not an act of war, it's an act of kindness. What is wrong with you?
With the people still inside. I've never been to a Waffle House. Does that make me a coastal elitist?
The only thing that we left would be the 3 teeth of the 10 people who worked there.
I've also never been to a Cracker Barrel.
Cracker Barrel's good.
Everyone says that, though. Ew, Waffle House. Cracker Barrel's good.
Waffle House is good if you're drunk. Or high. Or both. I've never been high, but... allegedly.
But you've definitely been drunk.
Only once.
So everyone's pissed at Fox. This is this is a big deal for the demographic that watches Fox. And then for the demographic that watches CNN, which is the same people of a certain age, but on the other side, Don Lemon was also fired he released a Notes app statement on Twitter saying, after 17 years at this network, I was let go. My agent was told I was let go. And then CNN PR responded and said, no, we reached out to you for a meeting and you said no. And then you just went straight to Twitter about this. So we wanted to talk about this with you and you said no. So they shaded him. But, CNN's now biggest personality, Don Lemon, who, bartenders everywhere heaving a sigh of relief, is no longer on the network. This is
and if you want to know how I feel about it, go see the tweet on the Thought Criminal Twitter account.
Oh. Get the fag off the TV. I am not watching that.
I wasn't going to say it.
But why?
Can't say that word.
TV?
No, Tyra Banks.
No, now all that we need is MSNBC to kick Rachel Maddow to the curb, and we've got the trifecta.
She basically kicked herself to the curb. She took herself off mostly.
Does she still have a show?
I don't think so.
Oh.
Because they couldn't come to a contract negotiation. She's on there every now and then, but she doesn't have her show anymore.
Oh. Well, who's on there then? Al Sharpton's not on
Joyless
there.
Reed.
Oh, yeah, I saw someone tweet that they were like, Joy Ann Reid's homophobic blog writer was also fired today. But to give Tucker credit, I think he is the only person in cable news who has been on all 3 major networks. Because he was on CNN Crossfire, he had an MSNBC contract, and he was on Fox.
He was also on PBS.
So 3 cable networks and a public local access station.
Yeah.
What was he on PBS?
He had a very short-lived television show on PBS, and then because he was viewed as too conservative, the PBS people were like, "We're going in a different."
He was viewed as having an opinion, and PBS was like, "No,
so they
bring it."
They yanked Bill Moyers out of retirement and stuck him in front of a chair.
Is he still alive?
I think so. I don't know.
Bill Moyers, and who was the other one? Charlie
Rose?
Yes. Is he still alive?
I don't think so.
I remember.
I don't know.
I remember a Joan Rivers episode where she talked about how Charlie Rose is a finger guy, and Charlie Rose tried to finger Joan Rivers
Allegedly.
on a plane. No, she said it, so it's true. Why would she make that up? Why would you make up Charlie Rose fingering you? That's like being fingered by a Spirit Halloween skeleton. Why would you make that up? It would hurt. So.
Well, this begs the question.
Does it?
Yes. Who will replace Tucker?
No one can replace Tucker. I said for the longest time no one can replace Bill O'Reilly, but But Tucker really grew into the role. I don't think any of the existing Fox talent, I should edit, has the ability to replace Tucker. I know that Bill O'Reilly had Jesse Waters as his protege for the longest time, but Jesse Waters is not a show leader. And Greg Gutfeld...
He's kind of a tool.
And the show that Greg Gutfeld would want to do is not the show that Fox wants at the primetime slot.
Right. He can't... No.
And Sean
Greg
Hannity
Gutfeld
will never
can't.
have that slot.
No.
So they have no existing talent that can fill that role.
You know who I want them to fill that role?
Who?
You're gonna scoff at me.
If you say David French, I'll break this glass.
No, why would I say that?
I don't know. You know who I want? Bill Crystal
No.
from the Weekly.
Jonah Goldberg. No. They need
He could fill the screen.
they need to bring Harris Faulkner from daytime to
Yes.
primetime because she is a talent that is unused.
Yes.
Because on her show,
Outnumbered?
no, that's the second one. So she's on both, but her actual show that's right before Outnumbered, the Faulkner Focus, yeah.
Yeah.
It's mostly like news.
Faulkner, I hardly know.
It's mostly like news.
Yeah.
So she covers the morning news and doesn't give much opinion. But occasionally when she does, and she has on guests who give opinion, but she doesn't give her own. But occasionally hers kind of works in there because she gets kind of fired up about something. And she's very eloquent. She's right on the money 99.9% of the time. She knows her shit. She's not only eloquent, she's poised. I mean, she's a great talent that they're not using to their fullest advantage.
And I remember when she was the weekend correspondent, and I've noticed, well, today, for example, she was the one who delivered on air the news that Tucker Carlson is no longer, and she looked visibly shaken.
Right.
Like, my only throwback with that is she's too hard news. She's not an opinion person, and they need an opinion person at time slot.
That's what I'm saying is that she hasn't been given that opportunity. I want to see if she's given that opportunity, what comes of it. But can you imagine the horror of the left thinking?
The horror of the left. Her name is Rachel Maddow.
I'm not talking about Nancy Pelosi. The horror of the left to see, someone like Harris Faulkner right up against Joyless Reed. Like, the two of them...
She's better hair.
But it would be their worst nightmare. Like, they would literally have nothing... Like, it's a black woman versus black woman. They have nothing else to say,
CNN had
what
a black gay, but now he's gone.
A black woman, yeah. No, you know what happened? Joy Reid would come out as a lesbian or some kind of non-binary bullshit just so she could have a leg up over Harris Faulkner.
They bring on Tyra Banks to replace Joy Reid.
Oh, Jesus.
I don't know. I don't know who would be an effective enough person in that role. I think for in-house talent, you can do a lot worse. Right now, for example, as we speak, Brian Kilmeade, retarded, is stepping in for Tucker tonight, by the way, Fox stock cratered today. Fox News stock, or whatever division owns the news thing, because they keep switching around their corporate things every 28 months. But Fox, the stock that owns Fox News, lost hundreds of millions of dollars today in shareholder value. Probably more than the lawsuit, actually. That'd be an interesting... Jamie, can you bring that up?
Colin,
Colin, can you bring that up?
text it to us now, even though you're not listening to us live.
Can we just move it, Colin, in here? Like, it'd be so much easier. He could listen to us during the show and be on the show, and then we don't have to set a time to record a show because he's just here. It's safer than Seattle.
He'd never leave.
But yeah, it's a weird day for cable news, and if you ask me, I think that the medium is done. I sound like Old Navy out of t-shirt sizes. The medium's done. Like, Fox is done, CNN is done, MSNBC was always done, but it's even more done now. And I think that a lot of these folks, the other stock I was keeping an eye on today was Dish Network, and DirecTV is owned by AT&T, so AT&T. I think a lot of people of this age have decided, why the fuck am I paying $99 minimum a month for a satellite cable TV package that does not include the one show I want to watch? You can watch HGTV on its own app now, which is another like TV channel that people that age will. Or you can watch the Magnolia Network. They have their own network now. They're completely separate. They have a streaming service. It's all streaming service. I think that this is cable news was allowed for so long because it was like that's what's keeping these big, satellite networks together.
Do you know how gay I am? It has correlation to what you're talking about. I purchased a cable TV subscription back before some of these.
To watch Tabitha Salon take over?
Basically, no, to watch Real Housewives, to watch anything on Bravo.
Yeah.
I purchased cable just for that channel because they didn't have streaming yet.
Right.
Peacock was not in existence. Like, they didn't put their shit online.
And you could only buy the DVDs if you wanted to rewatch an episode, and that was only for the first couple seasons of
Right, and then
certain
they
cities,
stopped
like
doing
you
that.
said. Yeah.
But I literally was paying, like you said, $100 a month, basically, just to watch my Bravo shows. And at the time, it was worth it, quite honestly, because I got a lot of entertainment value out of that stuff, because I watched literally everything that Bravo produced.
But a cable subscription then cost half as much as it does now. It costs a lot of money now. It's not cheap. So I think that all of cable news will eventually transition over to a, hospital, doctor's office, prison pipeline. Oh
me.
my God.
Sorry.
We don't even have a sneeze button on this show. Colin just went deaf.
And
Congratulations.
airports. Don't forget about airports.
Even in airports now, cable news is not anymore. And gyms,
Well, that's why people say that CNN is only played. Like,
it used to be, but they lost that contract recently.
Oh.
So airports now have like welcome to the greater Austin, Texas region. Like, here's like a pre-recorded whatever that's just on in the background. Like, they don't have shit entertainment on anymore.
well, they shouldn't.
Or they'll just have a golf channel or
No one's
something
paying
like that.
attention anyway.
Right. I
So
think
we
that,
have-
I think what will really kill cable and satellite TV is when sports decides to finally like separate. And I think that's already happening. So it's on its way out.
We need.
But
we need to get
today
more,
was the nail.
We need to get more listeners so we can get one of those coveted spots in conservative media.
I don't want one of those spots.
But
If Daily Wire sponsored this show, could you imagine?
I don't want them.
Could you imagine Ben Shapiro panicking outside the recording room or
I
something
want the
like that?
dispatch. To,
Exactly.
I want the dispatch to.
You can't say that on the
Support us.
capture not the feelings. You just see this little midget falling down the hallway. Like, he'd be so upset. You want the discharge to host us?
Yeah, I want.
Why? So Sarah is going to sit here and fact check me?
Yes.
Why?
Yes.
That's not correct.
Yes. Yes.
According to the 14th Amendment, you can't do that. Oh,
I love
have
her
a
so much. You can shit on her all you want. I love her. David French can go fuck rocks, but I love Sarah Isker.
David French was happy about today's news, which goes to show you how good it actually was. But speaking of the 14th Amendment, I learned this in the past day. I didn't know that this had even happened. There's, everyone's talking about the debt ceiling and raising the debt ceiling, lowering the debt ceiling.
Okay.
To most Americans, they just glaze over because this is complete nonsense government bullshit.
Right.
But there is a consideration that because there is a phrase in the 14th Amendment talking about debt and insurrection, and in event of an insurrection, the government does not pay any debt due, that the federal government, the Biden administration, could invoke the 14th Amendment over debt negotiations and suspend any debt due so that there is no debt ceiling discussion anymore. They are within their power, allegedly, to do this. And some scholars have said that they can do it. During the Obama administration, this was invoked, and they said, no, you can't do that. Like, we're not going to push it that far. But the other alternative they're talking about is minting a $1 trillion coin. And the third alternative is assigning all the debt to one person and just killing him. Like, this is like the level of like lunacy that this country is at financially. Literally, they want to mint $1 million coin and put it in a safe and make sure that no one can access it. That's the level of seriousness that this country operates at.
Well, fat good that did for the, what was it, Fort Knox? There's
Yeah.
nothing in there anymore. There's
No.
no gold in there.
No.
Yet they keep telling us there is.
I think it'd be funny if they had like comedically like gold painted bars or something in there.
Brad Meltzer, whatever.
Meltzer, you hardly know her.
He had a show called Decoded, and he basically proved that, no, there's not actually anything in Fort Knox.
It was just all a myth.
Although they do pay people to patrol it vigilantly as if they're worth gold.
So what? It's like Al Capone's vault.
So our tax money is paying for these people to guard nothing.
Just like our border. But no, speaking of Al Capone's vault, that's who should replace Tucker and Fox News.
Al Capone.
Close. It's his time. His time has come back again. He has a built-in fan base. Geraldo Rivera.
Oh, God.
Give Geraldo Rivera the primetime Fox for just him to say his most insane shit possible. He found he found Bonnie and Clyde's panties. Like, he found, like...
God, no. He's like...
He found Bugsy Siegel's jockstrap. Just please put Geraldo back on television where he belongs.
I would rather David French take over that than...
Oh, David
Geraldo
French would be
Rivera.
boring. At least with Geraldo, it'd be entertaining. Bring Geraldo back. On another note...
I was going to say, leading into... because Tucker was the first to... sort of make a household name of the organization, Gays Against Groomers.
Gag.
Apparently there's some...
The girls are fighting. Well, here's the biggest problem about having an organization that's not an official organization that's functioning like an official organization. Now, you and I have dealt with this before, where you have a group of people and they want to do events and they want to actually put stuff out. And you're asking a lot from people, and they're volunteering, but there's no actual organizational structure. You're going to have people who are doing that for like 1-2 months, and then they're like, wait a second. I'm putting all this work in for free. I don't get, if you're not paying people, and if you're not otherwise supplementing them, at least give them some notoriety. If you're not giving them notoriety, then what the fuck is the point? So you can understand why people would eventually get upset that they're getting involved in something that is not paying off.
Yeah,
which is sad.
I believe someone, and I'm not even not saying his name on purpose. I don't remember his name. He used the word slave. He said he felt like he was treated as a slave, and because he was working for free, and he was probably
Very nice. How much?
he was probably working, 30 plus hours a week on top of whatever he did for a living.
That poor twink. They were dangling a prescription above his head, like, come on.
So yeah, who knows that could be crumbling soon as well.
This is why I always thought that. I mean, you want to know my personal opinion?
No, we don't.
Okay. I'm going to give it anyway. I think that for something like Gays Against Groomers, it's a very good idea. I think that it works as a rallying cry and a message, and they should produce content. But if you were asking me if I was starting it from scratch, I would have it as part of a larger gay organization or a larger group. And it's just like, this is a division that does this, and they produce this stuff, and it's for this, but it has to be under an umbrella. I think that when you're starting something from scratch, you risk it falling prey to the same things that happen to Walk Away and all these hashtag things and everything like that. There's always one person that's the founder or the CEO or the head person or whatever. Then there's people who work for it who don't end up getting enough credit. They get mad at the founder gets mad at them. Everyone, sort of falls into this no true Scotsman type of logical fallacy, and the whole thing falls apart. This has happened so many times on the right, which is why no one on the right can get their shit together. They really can't. And it's frustrating to see this happening with Milo, ex everything now, like what, ex-gay, ex-Christian, ex-whatever, ex-influential, and Ali and Nick Fuentes and Marjorie Taylor Greene and all these people who, there's just this rotating cast of characters, all of whom end up in a photo together, all of whom 6 months later end up hating each other. They all call each other pedophiles. They all get mad, and everyone looks like fucking clowns. They all look like fucking clowns, and it's so embarrassing. Now, I happen to have met some of these people and know some of them. I do.
Why dragging Bianca Del Rio in this?
Bianca Del Rio, member of Gays Against Groomers.
That was for Brando, by the way.
I know.
If he listens to this.
Brando Glenville. But this is what bothers me so much about this, you people are very good at getting media attention. And some of them are actually very talented. Like, I happen to be one of the last 3 people on the planet who think that Milo is very talented at what he did. Remember, it was Gamergate, and then it was something else, and then something else, and then he started... I think he was at his peak when he did this photo shoot. He was dressed up as Marilyn Monroe, and he looked horrible. But it was pure Andy Warhol artistic genius because it got so much attention for nothing. And it was fantastic. It was just...
Sounds like some shit you would do.
Exactly! Which is why when people have said that you remind me of him, I've never taken that in a detracting way. In fact, I've taken it as a compliment.
You should.
Well, if they're using it as an excuse to call me fat, that's one thing. But if they're using it as an excuse to say that, I'm at least funny, okay, I'll take that. I'll take it that I'm as funny as him because I think he's actually very intelligent. But now he's down a K-hole, and... this is just kind of
allegedly.
Well, like a metaphorical K-hole.
Okay.
Or someone's in his K-hole. I don't know.
But you have to say metaphor, like either allegedly or metaphorical. Like
he's not comported enough to respond to this. But this is the problem. Then you have him, and then you have him fighting with Ali, who, again, I've known for many years. I think is an effective communicator. It's someone that I have had and... I guess you could say...
Can you clarify who Ali is, please?
Yeah, so Ali Alexander Akbar has been a fixture on the right for the past at least 10 years.
And is enwrapped in some...
It's some controversy
himself.
because Milo is like, he's a pedophile. And he's like, well, Milo's a pedophile. And they're like, okay, well, who's the pedophile? And so, then everyone's sharing Snapchat screenshots. And they're like, well, which I thought the whole point of Snapchat is there was no screenshots, but okay. But so, he sent this message to this person. I'm like, oh, it looks like something you might send. And then you send this message, and then this thing happened here. And so it's just become this back and forth that's so silly. But none of you are doing the work to getting people elected to any fucking positions. None of you are affecting the culture. None of you have gotten a single person on a school board like our friend Ryan has. No one has done anything. And that's the part for me that's frustrating is everyone's dilly-dallying over here wearing Kanye clothes, and no one's done anything.
And... to Ryan's credit, he doesn't talk much about, on his Twitter account, he doesn't talk much about, media personalities, stuff like that. He doesn't dog on
time
people.
for that.
I know, but he doesn't, he obviously has opinions, we know that, but he doesn't freely share them, which is good.
But that's the difference between a serious person and a not serious person.
But he was very kind when the Tucker news broke. He tweeted this morning, "Thank you, Tucker, for giving me, you were the first person who had me on your show about the 1776 pact and the hard work that he was doing that everyone else was deaf to or blind to."
Thank you. Because of, me appearing on the show, you drew your audience of 3 to 5 million people a night to our cause and
because saw how important it was and
helped flip school boards. It's helped actually do the work. It bothers me when people talk a lot and don't do the work. And it's hard because I know that...
So Tucker talks a lot and does the work.
Exactly. Even though he's being muzzled. But it bothers me because I think that Ollie is a very hardworking person, and it's the same thing on the right. It happened to Milo too, which is why it bothers me that Milo's coming out with these allegations. A few years back, Milo did an appearance on Joe Rogan's show where he was talking about being a Catholic school kid and everything like this. And he made a joke like, the priest came on to me, but I kind of liked the attention because I didn't have a father. That got construed into Milo is a pedophile or he's a pedophile apologist. It's like, wait a second. He's literally saying, I was in the Catholic Church. He's making a joke, first of all. Right. And he's saying, I was in the Catholic Church, and as a kid who didn't have a father, it was nice to get some male attention, even though it was at a younger age than it should have been at, and it kind of fucked me up mentally. And so he got twisted as that. And I wrote at the time an In Defense of Milo piece. And now, 3-4 years later, we're doing the same thing with Ali, who I know...
Linked in the show notes.
But the same thing with Ali, who also didn't have a father growing up. He was not a part of the picture, had a very rough upbringing, and worked very hard to get where he was. And I'm only saying this because it's somebody who I feel like I always end up stepping in this thing, in defense of this person that all of a sudden overnight everybody hates. So that's frustrating. I don't give a fuck about what the individual messages are. I don't care what they said. I don't care how Nick Fuentes is involved. I think that this is going to be another situation where this poor Nick kid gets dragged in the middle of it, and then whatever else happens.
Can he just go away?
But I don't know why Marjorie Taylor Greene is putting her big fucking clit into this either, because she's like, she was like, I don't know Nick Fuentes, and I don't know Ollie and everything. It's like, well, wait a second. Milo's living in your house, lady, your marital home that you broke up to run off with some yoga instructor. Hey, lady! I don't know what you made a Jerry Lewis reference earlier, and the worst part is that I got it. I was so upset.
And it came out of nowhere.
It really did. You were folding laundry. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, another person who I feel like I've defended against a lot of unjust attacks, is sticking her big yoga clit in this, or whatever, CrossFit or something. And it's like, come on, these people are all half your age. Like, can you calm down? Like, you're not involved in this, even though Milo's on your side and doing this. And it bothers me that there's just this constant game of shuffleboard with conservative personalities, and they all end up at the end of the day getting asterisked. None of them will ever have any kind of mainstream following. None of them will ever be considered respectable. These very online boomers and Gen X people who actually do vote and are influential in a political space have blacklisted these people completely. And most people will know them now as a result of their worst behaviors or worst perceived behaviors, instead of, hey, there's this young and interesting person who's working to affect some kind of change. That's the only thing that makes me mad. That's what bothers me.
Do you know why? And this
do
is
you,
something,
Diane?
This is something I talked about in a piece that I wrote about Lauren Boebert a long time ago. This is before we had a podcast.
She's been quiet.
Well, she should be, but
she won by a few votes, right? She won.
The point is, if you are a conservative media personality or whatever,
God forbid,
you have to be perfect. You have to be absolutely perfect. Otherwise, you're going to be caught.
The bar's higher for you.
Because anything that you do and say...
Speaking of perfect, the dog is slurping up water as we speak. Did you not see the record sign? This is a professional environment.
Why are you here? I don't know. No, anything that you say, can, or do will be held against you in the court of public opinion.
Well, because things you don't say will already be held against you.
Right. So there are so many more left-leaning, researchers and journos and people out there who are actively looking to discredit you and all of this stuff.
Right. Like Media Matters. Media Matters is universally dedicated to finding even the smallest person on the right and just destroying their lives, doxing them, and
the left gives them all kinds of funding and money just to do that.
Right.
The right gives no money to the very few people like me and you who are out there who are willing to do that. I'm willing to find the dirt and spin shit on some leftist people if it means getting them in trouble.
The best influencers on the right come from the left. That's why I think that the Red Scare girls have more influence than most conservative people do. They're Democrats. They're hard left. Like, they're a valid leftist. But they can express opinions that are, Jesus. But the Red Scare girls can express opinions that people on the left would normally be uncomfortable with. And sort of like, they're more traditional than most of these people on the right are. Like, just functionally. Yeah. Like, my God, they come from Soviet cultures. Like, So that's why it's like, I feel like, and they obviously get an insane amount of shit, but they also, still get to influence the culture because they at least get the sort of passive still coming from the left, which is why I'm coming out as a leftist.
We will always lose.
We? Who's we, paleface?
We will. You can't steal my lines. We will always lose when it comes to this kind of stuff because of the reasons I just laid out. Like, we are humans. We err. We make mistakes. Even if we don't make mistakes and we say the wrong thing or it comes out the wrong way and it's completely misconstrued against us, we will be called to task because there are people out there being paid to do that. There's no one on the right being paid to call people to task on the left.
Can we do that? Can we get that gig? That'd be fun.
But they're not giving us money because going with conservative, they're penny pinchers. They're not gonna spend money unless they think it's going to get them somewhere, and they don't think it's going to get them
Which is
somewhere.
why on the right you get a very specific kind of environment. It's like a super celebrity culture. So in celebrity culture, they always say, like, oh, the bigger you get, the harder they fall. Like Jennifer Lawrence is America's sweetheart. The next day, she, everyone hates her. She's a bitch, and that's kind of how it goes. But on the right, it's like that on steroids. To the point where they will invent allegations against you just so that they can cut you down because there's someone new coming. But then the problem is that the lesson that people on the right get is like, well, I have to become even more of a celebrity. And then you have some of these people, even on the gay right, who aren't even conservative, who don't even give a fuck about being conservative, who still get college campus speaking slots because they want to go out there and do the little song and dance and get money to be able to do it. And it's really pathetic, I think. I think it's pathetic because I think that the best person who's an influencer on any side is someone who is, I know it sounds silly to say, is authentic. Like, you can act believable or you can be believable. Acting believable is a very hard act to keep. Ask JoJo Siwa how hard it is to act believable versus be believable. Like, this whole time, this poor girl, they were pulling that ponytail so fucking tight, her eyebrows were back behind her neck. And she had to be this, like, Lisa Frank thing come to life with stickers and glitter and pink and everything like that. The poor girl became a lesbian because she couldn't handle it anymore. Like, no one is humanly like that. But if you're authentic, like Trisha Paytas, and you're just insane, and you're admittedly insane.
What? Huh? Oh.
Like, Trisha Paytas is the only authentic influencer left. I think that Trisha Paytas should go on Red Scare. But Trisha Paytas is real. Perry Abbasi is real. Like, these people are real fucking people, and they've cultivated a group of people who can recognize and appreciate that they are actually real. And they're all that's left, by the way. There's no one, maybe Paul Scala, like, there's no one else left that is authentic anymore. And that's why it's a hard thing having Tucker off the air.
Nothing.
That's why it's hard having Tucker off the air, because at least he was a real person. Oh, we're not saying like he's dead, but Tucker was the real deal in the sense that I don't think that he exaggerated out. Like, his monologues were from the heart. Like, he believed them. He wrote them. Like, there was not an act. If you hear him in any interview, if you hear him just off the cuff with a customer in a store in Montana or fly fishing in Central Park, which I think was hilarious. Like, there's a video of him fly fishing in Central Park. People are like, what are you doing? And he's just like, oh, I saw the fish were out today. Like, he's just this random bub. If you see him like that, like, he's the real deal Holyfield. And there's not many people like that. So it's sad to see one not get as much reach as they should have.
Well, I think we've beat this horse to death, and this has been a longer episode than
This
usual.
horrors to death. There was a Gavin Newsom, Dianne Feinstein thing I wanted to mention where they said he might appoint Barbara Lee to be in the seat, but then it would affect the election because she announced she's running, so that might be a problem. But anyway.
Wait, Barbara Boxer Lee?
No, Barbara Lee is this black congresswoman.
I'm kidding. Never mind.
That was not a good joke. You can't end on a wet fart.
I was trying. Never mind.
You gotta have a little more dryness in there.
Well, I'm well lubricated, as you can hear.
If we end up filling Tucker's slot, this is gonna be a problem. We'll be the nighttime Hada Cutby and Kathy Lee Gifford just on air, blasted.
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Mumbling and throwing shit at the staff. I chose to pay me these papers, goddamn.
That would be you, not me. I'm very, kind and gentle.
Like the O'Reilly thing. Suits provided by. Who was the company that made his suits? I remember
don't know.
Remember that little title card at the end though, where they said like who made his suits? That was very nice.
I don't remember.
Anyway, stop bloviating.
Go fuck yourselves.